What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is Hawk Talk on Melrose. I don't even know how to describe what took place yesterday inside Kinnick Stadium. Tyler and we were at the game. We went from feeling the lowest of the lows to the highest of the highs to the lowest of the lows again. If not, I literally can't even describe how bad that play call was. But we're here to talk about that, and not just that play call, because at the end of the day, things are way worse offensively than just that play call. So we are going to talk about all those things. Got Tyler here once again. Apologize for not having an episode out during the middle of the week last week. Just some things happened. I was gone pretty much the first half of last week, and it just never happened. But we are back here. So what's going on, Tyler? How's your Sunday? It sucks, but at least the sun rose, right?
I guess you could say that the sun did rise today. Didn't feel like it after last night's game that the sun would come up today. I'm not going to lie. Apologize for my voice if it sounds a little screechy or, not normal. I actually lost my voice when Cooper Dejean scored on the punt return to what I thought was win the game. Unfortunately, that did not happen. And looking back, it's like, man, if I was going to lose my voice, I at least wish we would have won the game for it. But that's not the case. So if it sounds a little weird, that's why. Yeah, the range of emotions in that 5-minute span at the end of the game was nothing like I've ever experienced, I think, inside Kinnick, let alone even a football game. Like you mentioned, you go from no hope of winning a game to we just pulled a rabbit out of a hat and probably won the game. I know there was still like a minute and a half left, but you felt like it was over and then go back to probably even a worse feeling of like just a gut punch, man. I felt sick to my stomach after that game. I really did. I actually felt it like physically like sick. It's funny. I wanted to mention this. It's like after the tailgate, when we get back to your tailgate after the game, your mom has like these like sandwiches for everyone to kind of, eat before we get on the road after our long drives back to wherever we're going. And I actually wasn't even hungry. Like for the first time, like I was like, I'm like my stomach, like I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat. I actually felt kind of sick. So it was crazy to say the least.
Yeah, the whole play thing, it's hard. I mean, like I said, I sit here today on Sunday morning, and it's going to take me a while to get over it. Honestly, like it will come back for probably years to come of like how BS of a call that was. Just because for me, like I feel more for like Cooper, and I know like Chris Williams tweeted out something that he said like, man, if like he gets that punt return, like there is legitimate talks of him possibly being in the Heisman race because of what he has meant to this team. You go back to the Michigan State game, then this, and like this punt return was crazy. Like there's a picture where like there's like 6 Minnesota players, like all like a foot around him, and it was just a picture, and someone said somehow he got out of this and scored a touchdown. Like that punt return, if it counted, arguably was like one of the coolest punt returns you'll ever see. And to take that away from him because of a BS call that they didn't even call at the time. And that's for me, like that's my biggest thing, that if they would have whistled it dead upon arrival, like right when it happened, yes, it would have sucked, but it's like, okay, well, I mean, it is what it is. But the fact that they go to replay to look to see if he's out of bounds and it turns out to be that, you cannot convince me that PJ Fleck and that coaching staff had some influence. They had to tell the refs, hey, we thought it was a fair catch. We saw him waving his arm, and our players slowed down because of it. You got to look at that. Like, guarantee you, Fleck told one of the officials that when they went to the replay booth. And then that's where they start looking, and they find it, and it's indisputable, even though it's really not, because how can you clearly see if he's actually raising his hand above his, I mean, he in his arm wasn't even above his shoulders at one point. So I don't know. I can't come to grips with it. It is absolutely just a terrible call. It would have been one thing if like he did step out of bounds. They went to the replay booth and they clearly saw he stepped out of bounds. Okay, whatever. But to go to the replay and essentially you're going to the replay to look at that, and then it turns out, oh no, never mind. It's because of a invalid hand signal. Just all-time garbage call. And we were robbed one of the coolest moments, not just for us watching, but for Cooper Dejean. That's a punt return that you'll always remember for the rest of your life, and it got stolen from us because of a stupid play call or for a stupid call by the officials.
And that's why I think I wake up even today and just still feel the same as I did when I went to bed last night, sick to my stomach, because it's for Cooper, right? Like a guy that has won games in spite of our offense has been the reason we've actually won football games, whether it's returning pick sixes, punt return, kick return, whatever it is. Like, it's just like that guy is such a great football player, such a good dude on and off the field. Like, that's what sucks, because in the way that our offense gave us zero chance in that game to really be competitive, and he won in spite of that, or what we thought won in spite of that, is why I sit here and I'm feeling the way that I am. And, there's a million different angles to look at this whole thing. Like you mentioned, definitely, I think Minnesota's coaching staff had influence. I think guys sitting back wherever they are in these review booths, and, I know like the NFL, it's in New York. I don't know where it is for NBC or whoever does it, but there's too many people behind the scenes that I think have all this influence. And it's like, and that's where I land on all this. If it was called on the field, you go back and review it. Well, it was called on the field. It's hard to overturn it. I still hate it, but I can understand it a little bit more. This, I genuinely don't understand how that's indisputable video evidence that it was a fair catch or an invalid fair catch signal. When it wasn't called on the field, not one single person referenced that during the play, or even like after it right away. Like, they went, and like you said, they went to review if he was out of bounds. And somehow, and Kirk mentioned it, you go from point A, reviewing if it's out of bounds, to stuff that is like never been called. Like, I don't even, like, maybe it's been called before. I've never seen it. I sent you a clip of and I don't know if you saw it. Sent you a clip of that North Carolina Virginia game last night. People go watch it on Twitter. The guy goes like this, get away, and it ends up taking a decent bounce towards him, and he's returning it, and he ends up catching it, returning it, and advancing it 10 yards. Nothing.
Yep.
So that's the next point that I wanted to bring up. The inconsistency of this rule apparently is bullshit, and is why I think we're all super upset today, because it effectively, robbed us of a game 100%.
So like two things. Number one, I find it funny because it's like Cooper was running towards the ball. How can you fair catch if you're running towards the ball? That's number one. And then number two, I'm still convinced too that if Cooper would have ended up just getting 10 yards or 15 yards out of that play, they don't go and look for that. Or if this would have happened like in the first half, they don't go back and look at that. Like, that's where like I get frustrated. Yeah. That 100%. Like, I just know, like, if Cooper would have ended up getting only like 10 yards, which could have very well happened. He could have got out of that first kind of chunk of players, and let's say he gets tripped up and he, it's a 10-yard punt return. They do not go back and look. Like, no way they do. That's where I'm the most frustrated about.
They went back and looked because they wanted to see if he was out of bounds, not because of some weird invalid hand signal. And to land on that as a reason to essentially blow the play dead and take the points off the board, which they had already added to the scoreboard, is all-time robbery. I'm having a hard time adjusting to it. And we'll get into it, because I'm sure that's what we'll talk about after this. Is we had some people after the game back at the tailgate and were like, we got robbed, but we didn't deserve to win. And I saw you tweeted it this morning. It's like, listen, two things can be true. Our offense is the worst offense in the country. We're not bad. We are pathetic. And we also should have won the game.
Yep.
Two things can be true. And because if we were saying that our offense, if we don't deserve to win the game, then what, because of our offense, what game do we ever deserve to win then? because our offense is never good. So you
Yep.
can't use that argument. And that's the problem that I have with it.
Yeah. And it's not like Minnesota played that good either. Like, why did they deserve to win? So
Right.
it's, and it's
the same
essentially
argument.
what I said before the game at the tailgate. I said, when we were talking about this game, and it would have been said if we would have done a podcast, it's going to come down essentially to special teams because both offenses suck. Iowa's defense is better than Minnesota's defense, but when you have a defense going up against Iowa's offense, you're going to be good. So it's going to come down to special teams, and essentially that's what it did. And it came down to the best player on the field made a hell of a play, and we should have won the game. So yeah, let's move on from it because we could sit here and talk about that for the next hour, and essentially it sucks because nothing is going to change. I am anxious to see what the Big Ten officially releases this week is if they actually will, say something that maybe it shouldn't have been called, or we'll see if they double down and try to act like, it was the correct call. I have no idea what they're going to do.
I would that can be like appealed or something.
Well, it's just going to be something where like
I want that to happen. I didn't even know if that's a possibility.
Well, it's just going to be something where like if they come out, they're just going to say like it was.
They won't.
It was a bad, and that's happened before. Well, where like I know the NFL will sometimes tweet out like the NFL Twitter for the officials. They'll come out and say like this was a bad, this was a call that shouldn't have been made, but nothing happens from it. That's what just annoys me. It's like okay, well, nothing's going to happen, so it's
nobody's held accountable.
Yeah,
exactly.
So my biggest thing too, and people are not talking about this, but what frustrates me the most with this Iowa offense is even though we didn't get the punt return, we still got the ball at the Minnesota's, was Iowa's 46.
Yeah.
And essentially, and people we were tailgating with, they said, they went in obviously early, they watched Drew Stevens kick field goals, and he was kicking it with the wind. He was at like the 40, they said the 45-yard line, which would have been almost like a 60-yarder. He was drilling it because of the wind. And so essentially Iowa needed like 20 yards to kick a field goal with a minute and a half left. And I think they had one timeout left. So
because Minnesota threw the ball on second down of their previous possession. Yeah. So we actually had a timeout. Yeah.
It frustrates me that, we didn't get the punt return, but our offense is so bad that we still can't even get 20 yards to kick a field goal, and we would have won the game 13-12. So it's just like, we were talking about this on the way home back to Des Moines, that when Minnesota got up 12-10, our offense is so bad at this point that it felt like we were down by a touchdown and we needed to score a touchdown to win the game, not a field goal, a touchdown. And that's how pathetic it has become with this offense. Second half, this is the thing that I tweeted this morning. David Eichel sent. We had 2 drives in the second half that lasted a minute. That was it. In the third quarter, we had a punt, a fumble, then the second drive, a punt, interception. We finished with a total, I think, of 2 yards in the second half. We had 1 drive that consisted of more than 3 plays. Every week we are finding new ways to be bad. Like we have been bad every week, but we are finding new ways to be even worse than we were like the previous week. And I don't understand how like Kirk can sit there and now they said they came out last night. It's a bye week and the defensive coordinator, not like Phil really needs to speak. I'm more worried about Brian, that they don't have to come out now and field questions. They've been doing it ever since Kirk has started the bye week. They have the coordinators talk to the media. This is the first year they're not doing it. Instead, the players are going to talk. I have a big problem with that because Kirk is essentially telling us, everybody, that I'm not letting you guys get to my son, that my son has no accountability in any of this. I'm going to protect him. And it's just so BS because nothing will happen. And I have liked everything Beth Getz has done. And I'm not saying that she should do something during the bye week because it just ain't going to happen. But every other program in college football, if they had a bye week this week and this offense was as bad as this was, and this is going on for a couple years. This isn't just 1 year. They would fire some people during the bye week. It would happen. I don't know. Offensive coordinator. Would it be maybe another coach? Would it be maybe a couple coaches on the offensive side? But there would be some firing. Yet we sit here and nothing will happen. Everything will stay the same. And that's my biggest problem.
Yeah, I saw that for the first time, the coordinators are not speaking during the bye week, that it's the players.
Yep.
Feels like you're just throwing the players under the bus, man. I don't know. You're exactly right. It feels like this like concerted effort to protect Brian, to not have him take any accountability with the media, because it's a reckoning every bye week. It's been a reckoning for Brian every bye week for the last 2-3 years with this offense. He gets asked why we're so bad, and they're probably just like, well, we don't want to go through it anymore. Take the easy way out and just let's have the players talk. And because what are the players going to say? The media's not going to go after these players for what? It's not their fault that, I mean, some of it is, some of it has to be on the players, but a lot of it is on Brian and these coaches. You could argue, and I saw it's like, you could argue that, come Monday, it's like Black Friday in the NFL with this offense. Like, you start firing, you could argue, I could argue that the entire offensive staff should be gone from what we've seen. We're at an all-time low. Like you said, we find different ways to one up ourselves and how bad we are every week. It's
Yep.
incredible. It's really incredible, these stats that come out. And yeah, the fact, and you highlighted it, the fact that we still had a timeout in our back pocket and a minute and a half to go, and we needed 20 yards, minimum 20 yards to maybe give ourselves a chance to win is incredible. And this speaks to how much respect opposing teams have for our offense. And I just mentioned it. PJ Fleck allowed them to throw the ball on second down and not let Iowa use a timeout there. They still felt confident that they wouldn't do shit, even with a timeout and a minute and a half and only needing 20 yards. And they were right. It's a joke. It's a joke.
We went into the season thinking, okay, can our offense just be like middle of the pack in college football? And I know there's injuries now and it doesn't help, but we should not be. I'm looking right now on NCAA.com. We are dead last in total offense. Not like that's not surprising. I could have told you that.
Yeah.
But we are 130th. We are dead last. Yards per game, 232.4. I don't care the injuries. That we should not be behind some of these teams that are ahead of us. Eastern Michigan, Kent State, East Carolina. We just shouldn't. Like, it is absolutely pathetic. And like I said, this is now 3 years in a row of this.
I actually thought of this on the way home. I think if our offense, so I described our offense against Wisconsin bad. We did nothing, but we ran the ball. We didn't do anything. We 37 yards passing. I didn't think it get worse than that, but we had 200 yards rushing and we won the game. Offense was bad. I think if our offense was bad against Minnesota, we win that game. I know that's sad to say, but no, we are. I'm at the point, I'm not going to call it bad anymore. We are pathetic. We are the worst offense in the country and couldn't run the ball. And that's why we weren't effective in any sort of, offensive. We were terrible on offense, and that's why.
Starts with Deacon Hill. And I said back after the Michigan State game, or maybe it was after the Purdue game, I said, give him a few games. But I said, once the bye week comes, if he is like we're sitting here like, yeah, this guy's not a good quarterback, we got to make the change. And it is clear and obvious that Deacon Hill is a terrible quarterback. I saw someone tweet last night, one of our buddies tweeted, he makes Spencer Petras look like Tom Brady. And it's honestly true. I don't think I've ever seen a worse quarterback than Deacon Hill. And his stats since he came in for Cade McNamara back on September 30th, 37 for 98, which is 37% completion percentage. 37. What is the goal? 64?
For
427
Iowa, it's like
well,
55.
the goal,
No, I
for
agree.
Iowa, the best would be 55. But the
I
goal
agree.
for most quarterbacks, it's like 64, 65% is like, that is like what you want to be at. So 427 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 3 fumbles. He's had 6 turnovers so far. Yet you had Kirk Ferentz come out this last week when someone asked, like, why are you guys not considering Joe Labus? He comes out and pretty much kind of says what he's been saying the last couple of years with the backup, pretty much just throwing them under the bus that they're not good enough to play. Even though we saw Joe Labus play in a game last year, and Grant, he wasn't great. And I'm not saying bringing in Joe Labus is going to change things, because it's not. This offense is horrible. The coaching staff that coaches this offense are horrible. But you cannot tell me that Deacon Hill gives us the best chance to win. When, like, yesterday, you saw.
He's turning it over.
And he has 6 turnovers. 2 fumbles yesterday that resulted. 1 fumble resulted in a field goal for them. You take away that field goal, we win the game 10-9. Then he has the interception at the end of the game. He had another fumble that we got fortunate they missed the field goal from. But they started in our own territory from that fumble.
Correct.
The dude is horrible. And like I said, I gave him a chance. Like, he looked decent against Michigan State. I said on the following podcast that I was a little worried that, he
kind of called it.
He kind of came in with no pressure, right? You came in right away. You don't really think about things. And he actually looked decent that game. But then the Purdue game, you have a week to prepare. You have a week to think about things. And you started kind of seeing, like, that Purdue game. But it's like, well, still give him, like, it's one game. Like, let's give him a few more, maybe one more. Wisconsin looked horrible. In that game, you could honestly, once again, say, it's on the road, his first career road game. Like, it is what it is. But yesterday, no excuse. This Minnesota defense, I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's not great either. It's not your typical Minnesota defense from years prior. They were ranked 74th in scoring defense coming into this game. So, like, they weren't like an all-time.
Like, no, they're not good.
So, and you're at home. Like, it shouldn't be that hard. And I get it, the injuries. I understand that. But you still have 3 good running backs. You still have some decent wide receivers. Like, you should be able to do something. Like, I'm not saying it has to be, like, great, but you should be able to at least do some things right, to the point where you at least, with our defense, like, we should have no problem. Like, we should have had no problem winning that game yesterday.
Yeah, none.
Minnesota didn't even come close. And Joseph, guy that we tailgate with, said it perfect before the game. He called it. He's like Minnesota won't even come close to scoring a touchdown this game. And he was right. They didn't even come close.
No.
Well, maybe besides that fumble where they got like the 10-yard line, that would probably be the closest, but that wasn't because of our defense.
Again,
and they only got like 2 yards from it.
Yep.
So you just have a somewhat, like you said, like just a bad offense today, because yesterday was really bad. You win that game by at least a touchdown, if not maybe 10 points. I don't know, man.
Here's my thing, man. I agree with you. There's no reason to believe that you can't put in Joey Labus and at least not have him turn the ball over. The way Deacon was turning the ball over yesterday, getting the ball just swatted out of his hand when he was in a drop back
2 times.
You can't get worse than that.
Yeah.
Throw a pick, it happens. Right? It happens. When you're losing the ball like that, not even seeing like defenders kind of coming at you, and you're just kind of being careless with the ball in the pocket, man, you have no chance, especially with Iowa's offense, to lose a turnover battle 3-0. I mean, like the fact that we could have still won and should have won is insane, and that's why I think we feel bad for Cooper today. We said that, but no, it's I agree with you. I think Deacon's bad. Here's my thing, and this goes to the larger point that we've talked about. It was bad with Spencer, and we threw him under the bus, and it was bad with Cade, and it's bad with Deacon. Man, I have a heart, like, I agree Deacon is not good, and we should open up a quarterback competition going into this bye week, which sounds like we might not. It's like, cool. Like, what does it even hurt to do that? I don't know. We're at an all-time low, so I don't get it. But it's like, if we're going to be bad with every single quarterback, it's like, this goes to the bigger issue, right? Of it's the offense, it's Kirk. It's not just Brian, it's Kirk. It's Brian. It's this entire offensive scheme. It's everything. And it is at a point where no quarterback can succeed in this offense. It doesn't matter if we put whoever back there. We have Cade McNamara, a guy that's been in the college football playoff, and he can't even do good. So,
well, when you have when you have an offensive lineman coaching the quarterback's room, you know it's a problem.
Yeah, not only calling plays, but coaching the quarterback.
Yeah,
I have a problem with that too.
And that's why I said like 5 minutes ago when I said like, because I wanted to clarify that, like, if we bring in Joe Labus, it's not, I do not think it's going to be any better, but at least like just put someone else back there. Deacon Hill is just not it.
What are we worried about? Deacon's confidence or something? I mean, even if Deacon's got to sit back there and be like, yeah, I've turned the ball over 6 times in 3 games or whatever it's been. Yeah, I don't deserve to just have this spot safe. My starting position safe right now. That's come on, even he knows that.
So, there was a reason why he was buried in the depth chart at Wisconsin. He was a 4th stringer at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
There was a reason why he was transferring to Fordham before we called him and essentially said, "Do you want to come to Iowa?" And he decided to come to Iowa. He was literally committed to Fordham. There's a reason behind, he's just not a D1 football player. And clearly it shows in the last couple games. Here's one other issue. When Kirk Ferentz talks about Joe Labus the other day, and I forgot what he all said, but once again, he threw him under the bus. I wish a reporter would be like, well, isn't that on you guys then? Because he's been in your guys' program now for 2.5 years. I know last year for sure, and I think he was with the program a year before that. So 2.5 years.
Yep.
What isn't that on you guys then? If he's not prepared, if he's not ready, like what's going on? He should be ready. He should be ready to go. You should give him a chance. He's been in the program for 2.5 years. That's on you guys then. That's coaching.
Yeah.
I really thought about that. They're the ones
that do the player development. We talk about Iowa being great player development on the defensive side. And it is. And the tight ends on offense, but that's it for the offense. Like no other position do we ever just sit there and are like, oh my God, we do a really good job. And you're right. That's on the coaching staff.
Yeah. So we sit here today and like, they kept asking people on Sound Off last night, like every person that like took the phone, they asked, should Beth Getz fire Brian during this bye week? And everyone said yes. And I completely agree. Like it's just never going to happen. But God, I just wish something like during this bye week, something would change. Like Kirk,
you want Beth to get a statue built of her outside of Kinnick. You fire Brian come Monday.
Yeah. But I just don't think like, I keep saying this, and it's like it just doesn't. It doesn't matter like if Brian's gone or not because it's all Kirk. This is all his offense. It's all his doing, and I'm really intrigued.
Something though, right? Like it's got to start with something. You have to change something, and that's my issue. Is I agree with you. It's not going to get better this year. It's just not. But where's that accountability that we kind of talk about? Like, that's why guys get fired in their job. They're not doing their job. They're going to have to find somebody else to try to do a better job, right? It's got to start somewhere. So I don't know.
I'm just worried. I'm really worried that nothing will change beyond this season. Like, I'm really worried that Kirk will essentially just keep doubling down on what he's doing because, right now, we lost yesterday, but we're still these last few years we're winning games, right? And I'm just afraid. I'm afraid that he's just like, what's there to change? Like let's say we end up finishing this year, 10-2, 9-3, or we do still make it to Indy. Yeah. I mean, is he really going to change? I mean, and he ain't going to fire his son. The only way Brian goes is if Beth Getz literally says like, you're done. And will Beth do that? Like, I don't know. I'm just so worried that this could turn so ugly. And
we talk about the future a lot on this podcast.
We do. And I'm really afraid that we keep doubling down because once again, like if there are no dramatic changes this offseason, like a lot of these, I'm really afraid a lot of these wide receivers, a lot of some of this talent that we have they are going to transfer. And then we're left with like nobody. Yeah. And, someone made a good point on Sound Off last night. Kirk's contract goes till 2029. Why would he walk away from all that money? And they asked, the two guys, Travis and I can't think of the other guy. They're like, would you walk away with all that money? If you had all that money sitting in front of you, would you just be like, I'm done? And like, you're not going to, no, like, so like the guy was saying, he's like, everyone thinks that he's probably going to be done after the season, but is he really going to be done? Probably not. Because like, why would he walk away? He still has 5 more years left on that contract. That's a lot of money still.
And you don't think Iowa would fire him and like pay it out?
They would never. I will never fire Kirk. And I'm not even saying. I mean, you shouldn't. I mean, that's that.
Right. No, I'm posing the question.
For me, like I'm to the point where it's like 2 options. Kirk either just ends up saying like, okay, we are going to do some things different. I am going to bring in someone new. That would be my first. Like, I hope that would happen. But if that doesn't happen, number 2 would be like, please resign, please retire. I'm sick of it. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm hoping for option A because I do want Kirk to stay. I love Kirk.
Yeah.
But I need him. I need him to come out, and I need him to just let go of what his son is doing and just give the reins to someone outside of the program that knows what the hell they are doing offensively. Go out and get an offensive coordinator. Go out and get a legit quarterbacks coach and blow this ship up and just do that. Like, please, there are coaches out there that know how to run an offense. And I said this a couple of weeks ago. It's hilarious to me because it's like, I feel like we are so bad, like coaches wise, like offensively, like we don't know how to, we never have a good game plan. We never know how to make adjustments.
Yeah,
we never know.
The same, doesn't it not?
Yeah. It does. We never know how to attack defense because every defense has their weakness. And it just seems like we just don't do any of that. Yeah. We were talking yesterday during the game. Why are we one of the only teams where like we will not do an audible? Most teams either have like 2 plays and then they can audible to the second play if depending on the defense, or they all look
to the sideline.
Yep, they look to the sideline.
Yeah.
And they make a change. Yeah. And it frustrates me so much, and it happened so much yesterday where like those first and second down plays where Minnesota had 9 guys in the box. They were coming.
You saw them creeping, and we called it before. We're like, oh my God, they're like run blitzing hard, and it's just a straight handoff up the middle. Just no other option off that.
Yeah.
Nope.
They were running full. I mean, they were running before the play was even snapped.
They were full speed.
Yep. Full steam ahead. And credit Minnesota because I said this to you yesterday, like Purdue and Wisconsin, like they loaded guys in the box, but like they didn't really do what like Minnesota like really crashed.
Yeah. And
that's why we finished with what, like 18 yards rushing is because of that reason. But like, I'm just saying like most offenses, like if the defense is going to do that type of stuff, you are going to audible out of whatever your play call was because you're going to attack them for doing that.
Yeah.
And I always say like, you should be embarrassed that defenses are like this to you. Like you should be like, fuck you. We're going to do this. If you guys are going to do this, fuck you guys.
Yep. But like, you're going to bring all this, 9-man boxes. Okay, fine. We're going to exploit you on the outside. Like what most teams in the country at least attempt to do. Yeah. We don't even attempt it. It's crazy. My thing is this. Go ahead.
No. Well, yeah, no, you can go.
I was just going to say this, and this goes to like, we're so bad right now, yet we're, and I know a lot of it has to do with our division. So I have to keep that in the back of my mind, but think of even if we were, 2 years ago, we decided to like actually blow this up on offense, we would have still had an amazing defense under Phil, a great special teams under LeVar Woods, a hell of a head coach in Kirk Ferentz, and an actually decent offense.
Yep.
Moving into this new era of college football, where this new Big Ten, where we're going to have Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington join, I would have felt good. And we're at the point where, we don't even know if it's going to even change. Yeah. So it sucks moving forward because, we can talk about now and, it works. Listen, next year's right around the corner. And if we don't do something, because even if we change it this year, it's better. It's going to be better than what we've done the last 3 years. If we brought in a new coach, a new offensive coordinator, a new quarterbacks coach, just revamp that entire offense and did, whatever that offensive coordinator wanted to run, it would be better than what we're doing now. I don't care if the offensive coordinator is from freaking D3. It's better than what we're doing
now. So two things. Number one, like I like how you mentioned that like 2 years ago, because like 2021, even though we made it the Big Ten championship game, our offense was absolutely pathetic. And Kirk could have that offseason could have been like, okay, that ain't gonna happen again. Like that was really bad. But instead he doubled down on it because we did have a successful season record-wise. And then we go into 2022 and the same things happen. And once again, 2022 offensively was probably worse than 2021. So then after the season, could have done something about it, but decided, no, we're doubling down. We're just going to do the same things we do, but do it better. Brian Ferentz, famous quote that he said this last spring. And now we go into this year and we are worse now than we were last year in 2021. Like we thought 2021, 2022 was bad. This is even worse than it was.
So what gives me any confidence it's going to change next year? None. Right?
So we're going to play this game. I pulled up the 2024 Iowa football schedule. Let's just say hypothetically, Kirk stays and he once again doubles down on this offense and nothing really changes. Maybe a few minor tweaks, but nothing really changes. Let's go through this. Let's go through the schedule and let's see. Like
I don't even know we were doing this, so this will be good.
Yeah. Okay. So Illinois State, Iowa State, and Troy, the 3 non-conference games. You can get away with having kind of a bad offense with those 3 teams.
Yeah,
especially with Iowa State at home. Like,
we've shown that.
Yeah. Okay. Now.
So 3-0.
And now, once again, like the schedule, like the dates aren't lined up. So, like on this website, they have all the home games at the top and then all the away games. So, Nebraska at home probably could get away with it, but once again, like Nebraska, like you're starting to see with can't think of his coach, Matt Rule, like the foundation is being built there.
Yeah.
Okay, Northwestern at home, you can get away with being like, the type of offense that you are. Washington at home, no chance. I don't care how good your defense is.
Like Penn State a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wisconsin, second year in the Fickles era, they're gonna be better. You're gonna need a better offense to beat them.
Yep, would agree.
At Maryland,
not a shot.
It all depends on who they're. Yeah,
and I agree, and I think our defense, it's really good, but if it doesn't change, that we'd have to. You can't tell me that even if we gave up 14, 17 points to Maryland that we're beating that team. I just don't see it.
Yeah, it just depends on who their quarterback is, because obviously, like after this year, they're going to be going with a new quarterback after this year. So it's like, how good would their offense be?
But they probably have got. I mean, I could be wrong, but it's like, what quarterback wouldn't want to go to Maryland and throw the ball around? So I'm sure he's going to be decent.
At UCLA,
not a shot.
At Ohio State,
environment, okay, 0 shot.
Yep, at Ohio State. At Michigan State, you could probably get away. I don't know. I mean, it just depends on what Michigan State's like.
They're in a weird spot with the turmoil there. Like, given all things considered, I still think it's a very close game. Yeah.
And then at Minnesota, you could probably probably get away with that too.
Tough game though again.
But
way.
Okay,
50-50.
But 50-50 I would say. So there was at least 4 games for sure next year where it's like there's no shot with this offense, like we're winning those games given who we're playing. And then there's like 2 games where it's kind of like 50-50. Like 50-50. We could probably get away with it, but it's like I don't know. Like that's like at Maryland, Nebraska. Okay. Like those are 2 teams where it's like maybe just depends on like what they look like next year. And so this is going to be like this every single year for the considerable future that like
you're looking at the schedule and you're going, okay, we got a minimum of, or our floor is like 4 wins and our ceiling's like 6, 7. Like, I don't know. What's the ceiling on that schedule? 7?
Yeah.
Like, as of right now, as everything sits and stands, like, there's no more divisions. Iowa fans, like, that's the reality. That's what makes everything so much tougher come the future.
Now, let's say we actually go out and our offense is better next year. This schedule, if our offense was decent, it's not like it's a hard schedule, but it's like it's at least manageable. Like you get Washington at home. Okay, if you have a good offense, like you can compete with them. at USC or UCLA, excuse me. If you have a good offense, you could compete with UCLA on the road. The only game that's like at Ohio State, like that's going to be tough. Even if you have a decent offense, that game is going to be really tough.
Yeah.
But that's where I go from. Like if we had a decent offense, because as long as Phil Parker's our defensive coordinator, our defense is always going to be decent and always going to be
Look
pretty
at Penn
good.
State yesterday. No, they didn't win the game, but it was close.
Yeah.
Right? They kept it competitive. Like, yeah, that's what you just got to try to give yourself a shot. So, yeah, no, I agree. We're not on that level, man, of a lot of those teams next year, just because, if something doesn't change.
I just want to football is supposed to be fun, and I just want to have fun. I love winning games. Don't get me wrong. I love winning games. Yep. And we do a lot of winning. We're very fortunate as a fan base. Like we win more than we lose. Yeah. But every single game is just so dreadful. I mean, we have buddies that are Iowa fans and they can't even watch games because it's so bad because they're not as diehard as we are. Right. And we get kind of mad because
the casual Iowa fan probably doesn't watch many games.
Yeah, and I don't
those fans that say oh, I'm an Iowa fan, but I don't watch every game. No. What's going to draw them to the television?
Yeah, exactly. So I can sit here and be mad, oh, come on, watch it. But it's I can't get mad at that because it's I feel where they're coming from.
It's out when we're in the game. Could you imagine them watching it on TV? Yeah.
Yeah, it's I feel that. Yeah, I get it. I understand why you don't like watching this team because it's every single game is just dreadful to watch. Punt, maybe a field goal.
Yeah.
I mean, your best the only times you cheer is when your defense is out there and when Torrey Taylor goes out to punt the football. It should not be that way. That's not football. Football should be, and once again, not, there's teams out there that don't have good offenses, but at least ever so often they're doing something on offense. Like I said, we just find ways to be every single week worse and worse. And it's annoying because we became kind of the national laughingstock on offense.
They're doing segments on ESPN College Game Day about how we're winning these games, and 3 games that we've won, we haven't even gotten over 250 yards of offense. We were outgained in all 3 of those games. That's the most in the country, obviously.
Yep.
It's just stuff like that. It's why do I have to sit up here and be happy that we're still winning? It's we don't hold that standard to the defense. We expect them to just be lights out. But then we can just be oh, well, they won the game for us. Cooper won the game for us yesterday. It's no, it shouldn't come down to that. I agree. We still should have won the game, but it should never have gotten to that point. And there's a difference there. So
yeah, we just make offense look so hard. We make offense look so hard. That's my biggest thing. I don't care about the injuries. We make it look so difficult.
Yeah.
And it's time to blow it all up.
We're if we had a decent offense coming into the year and then we had these injuries and it looks not good, that's understandable. I understand that it's going to be tough, right? When you have these sort of injuries on offense. But to get to the lows of where we're at, like you said, is actually kind of unbelievable. So
these last 3 years, man, it's really we're going to look back on this 10 years from now and be man, those 3 years where it was still the Big Ten West and the Big Ten West was hot garbage. If we just had a decent offense, those 3 years, we would have made it to the Big Ten championship game every single year. We'd have at least put up a fight in the Big Ten championship game. And you never know at that point, could have maybe made the playoffs one of those years because of our schedule and because of if we had a good offense, and we just wasted it. We wasted it because Kirk was unwilling to do something about it.
Look at how bad this Big Ten West has been these last couple of years, and the fact that we didn't even get there last year, and this year it's still now going to be a dogfight. It's what are we doing?
Yeah,
I agree with you. It's how when we look back, it's how the hell did we not?
Given how good the defense was these last few years,
it'd be honestly a cakewalk to this Big Ten championship every year. Not saying we'd win it, but it should not be this hard.
No. Yeah. So, I think nothing's going to change this bye week, even though we won it. But I'm saying, we are now already in November. So about 2 months from now, the season will be over with. Blow it up. Things need to change. I just can't anymore with
Hard to defend it. You can't.
It is. It's hard to defend. It's hard to sit here and actually enjoy the games and watch the games.
It's not football. It's really not. You made a good point there. It's not football. It's not football to say that, oh, we don't have to have an offense. Our defense and special teams will win us the game. No.
Yeah. Shouldn't be that way. It's got to be complementary football. Kirk preaches about that all the time. Well, how is it when the offense sucks?
When we have 1/3 of this team not only not doing their job, but them losing the game for us. So,
and then when the offense is out there for less than a minute at a time, and then you expect the defense to be like fresh, you expect the defense, like, can you imagine
that they didn't allow Minnesota to even when they turned it over 2 times in like essentially our territory, for them to only come away with like 3 points because they actually missed that other field goal. Enough said about the defense and the job that they do. Like I don't know how Phil doesn't get $10 million a year for what he has to go through. I'm serious.
Well, think about like if our offense was good and like they weren't on the field as much as they were, like think about how much like they're already really good. Imagine like how good they would be because they would be even more fresh. They wouldn't be on the field all the time. Like I've always kind of thought that it's like, God, like it would be like at like a new level. It's already at like a high level, but like it would be at even a higher level if that was the case. But I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. It just sucks because it pains me that we have to talk about this all the time.
Every week.
And
yeah.
Hopefully
I don't know.
Hopefully this offseason, man, it's something clicks in Ferentz's mind, and it's like, well, if I decide to stay, I got to do something about this.
Yeah, and then real quick, I was just gonna say, like, just walking out of that game yesterday, just like to see Minnesota run over and grab that trophy, just it left a bitter taste in my mouth. Not only because we should have won the game, but just it's like you said, if we just had a bad offense, like we had a bad offense, a okay, not great offense, we win that game by 7-10, and it's not even a question. But yeah,
we're 7-1, and we're feeling good.
Minnesota and the fact that they got away with that is just the whole sequence of events. Just it sucks today. And like we said, when we lose, this is when it becomes a problem. But right when we win, kind of throw it brush it under the rug a little bit. Like, we talk about it, and we do. But I'm saying like other fans are like, well, we're still winning. It's like, well, no, we're not winning now. We lost, and there's no reason for it. So that's why I think today we are pretty hot. So
exactly. Yeah. Well, we are entering the bye week. So with that being said, we'll probably take a week off from this podcast. And then we'll be back.
Unless something comes out about some sort of offensive changes, maybe we'll hop on here, but I wouldn't bank on it.
Yeah. We'll probably record one, or I shouldn't say probably, we will. So next Wednesday, so not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday, we'll record one as we enter, I can't believe it, November football, and as we enter the Northwestern game at Wrigley Field. So we'll have a podcast out for that, or an episode, I should say, out. But yeah, we'll probably take a week and a half off. So if you don't see anything, that's the reason why. And I guess like the 24-hour rule, you have to flush it. It's going to be hard to flush this game because we should have won. We should be 7-1 going into the bye week, going into November, feeling really good about things. Yet here we are today. So that will do it for this episode. Thanks, Tyler, for joining.
Yeah.
Have a great Sunday. Have some fun watching some NFL and all that. And we'll talk with you soon. Thank you guys for listening, and go Hawks.